Hey, what's up everybody? David here with Tough Guys TV, and welcome to episode 4 of How to Build Our House. We've had a lot happen since episode 3, so there's a few things we're going to cover. The first one of those is going to be MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And number 2, we're going to cover insulation. Those are the two big steps that have happened since episode 3, so I hope you'll stay tuned to check this one out. Okay, so first up of those two big things that we completed, MEP, let's go ahead and start with mechanical. That is your HVAC system. Now we're going to talk about insulation later, but it was important to have a conversation with our HVAC vendor before they started work so that they knew exactly what type of insulation we were going to be using in the house, because we have spray foam and that's important for them to know. So since we have a spray foam system, we don't want them to overbuild the HVAC, because then we can have problems with condensation on the inside of the house if it's just working way too much for what's necessary. Now, I think I've mentioned this in other videos, but we have everything on 4 zones. So that means we're gonna have 4 thermostats controlling the zones inside the house. And in order to do this, we have a damper system that's gonna be hooked into the HVAC duct lines. We did have the blocking installed for all of the thermostats prior, and we marked these off and showed the guys where it is so that they knew where to run their lines during the install process. So here along the perimeter edge of the house on the exterior wall, we had kind of a gap of about 2.5 feet where we were able to run ducts where we didn't have the plywood decking for the attic. This was definitely helpful to run both electrical and ductwork before they came in and did the spray foam. Another thing that's worth mentioning with your HVAC vendor is any large open spaces, and especially how you're going to be laying out your lighting, and I guess if you're going to have any plumbing on your second floor. In our case, we don't have a second floor, so it was pretty easy for him to see where everything was going to go. It's still something important to talk about so that you can make sure you have your feeders and your returns wherever you want them to be, and that makes sense for the layout of your house. A good example of that is in this little hallway here that separates the 2 kids' bedrooms and the hall bath that comes from the living room. There's a lot of stuff going on in the ceiling, so it was important for us to show him, look, we want the return to be here because we're going to have lights here, etc. And you have doorways and you have people walking in and out of here. You're going to have things hung on the wall. Maybe you're going to do something on the ceiling. Maybe there's going to be an attic access there. These are details that those guys need to know before they do the work, and then you have to ask them to redo the work because they didn't know. All right, now let's cover the E, that is electrical. So for the electrical system, we spent a ton of time working with our contractors to make sure that we had things where we wanted them to be, and to sort of future-proof this house, as you've kind of seen, hopefully, as a theme throughout this series. Probably the most important thing for me was having hardwired internet and coaxial in the house, even though coaxial, I guess, could sort of be getting phased out. I just wanted to have those lines in the walls so that I can have my data centers where I want them to be. I can have hardline internet where I want it to be, and I can have TVs mounted where I want them to be. One other nice feature is installing these boxes like this where you have like a little tube that connects them together. We can run our wires for the TV later on. You can buy kits that have like a tube so you can connect your wires later so that you don't have all your wires hanging from your TV to whatever piece of furniture you have underneath it. If you want the TV on the wall and everything to look nice and neat, now would be the time to take advantage of this before you have sheetrock go on. Now behind me here is the kitchen, and this is probably where we spent the most time talking to the guys for the electrical and also plumbing, but mainly electrical for where everything was going to go. We have our kitchen sink centered underneath this window here, but I also wanted to be able to show them exactly where the counter height was going to be, so I knew where switches needed to go. I also discussed all the equipment that we're going to have under the sink, like we have a water drop purifier that's going to go underneath here that's going to need power. And then over on this side, we wanted to make sure he has the plug exactly roughed in where it should be for the range, because if you're not aware and you're putting in a new stove, there's going to be instructions that come in the box that show you where to put your plug for electrical, or if you do have any gas. Preview, we do have 1 gas line in this house. You want to make sure that you rough those in where they need to go so that you can actually slide the stove all the way to the wall. Now we decided to put the panel out here in the garage. We have all the walls in the garage with 1/2-inch plywood from floor to ceiling. Now the ceiling of the garage is actually open. We have the spray foam up there, but along this wall we have the panel, so we have access to it here in the garage, and it's all the way in the back corner so that if we have the vehicles in, we should be able to get a clear path from the door that enters into the garage all the way over here. Now additionally, for the electrical, we wired up one of those Cat 5 lines all the way to the exterior wall so that we can set up our Starlink outside. And additionally, here in this flex room, we asked for a couple of dedicated plugs just because we're probably going to have laser engravers or 3D printers or maybe some other equipment out here. It would be nice to have a dedicated plug. Again, just trying to ask for the things that are gonna be a lot harder to add after the sheetrock is already up. This is gonna make things easier now. You can see this okay. I have a terrible glare hitting me in the face, but we have the cedar on the front porch is all stained. This was a nice little project I did last weekend. So got this done, beat most of the rain which is what's causing the glare for me right now. But anyways, feast your eyes. I hope you like the color because it's the color that we got. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the plumbing system. So for the plumbing, we've got 2 bathrooms in this house that have tubs. So we have a half bathroom as well. Although if you remember, the half bath is gonna kind of be my office temporarily. Not kind of, it actually is gonna be my office. So I'll be officing out of a bathroom. But anyways, eventually it will become a half bath and that's off of the laundry room. But right off the bat, we're gonna have 2 tubs. So this is the kids' bathroom, has more of a standard tub. And then in our master bath, we'll have the cast iron tub. Additionally, we made our decisions about having sinks where we wanted them. So originally we wanted a single sink in the kids' bathroom or the hall bath, but we ended up deciding to do 2 sinks in there so they'll have their own. And in the master bathroom, we decided to do the same thing. We have 2 sinks, sort of a his and hers, which will be separated by a center column. So making sure that you have all of that plumbing roughed in correctly on the front end. Again, you know where your cabinets are gonna go. The plumber's not gonna know that by default. So you need to spend the time to measure that stuff off, mark it, and make sure everything is roughed where it should be before you move into insulation and move into sheetrock. Another thing that is worth checking is your toilet placement. So you may not be aware, but it matters how far out the toilet drain is roughed from the wall. So different toilets have different distances. So if you've already chosen a toilet, then make sure you share that with your plumber so that way ultimately, when you go to install the toilet, it's not too far or too close to the wall, the way it's roughed in, and that's just gonna cause problems later. And regardless of whether or not it's electrical lines or plumbing lines inside the wall, please make sure that you're checking for plates. These metal plates protect against screws that could go through here during sheetrock and hit, whether it's a plumbing vent, whether it's PEX lines, whether it's electrical, whatever it is, walk around yourself and check for plates. This is something where the vendors just can miss it. It's not anything they do on purpose, of course. It's just there's a lot going on. Put your eyes on it as well to make sure everything's plated. Okay, let's talk about insulation. Now, we did spray foam and we did some bats. So the bats we have on bathrooms and utility rooms. These are sound bats, so they help keep the sound down, flushing toilets, washing machine running, shower going, things like that. It's good to have sound bats if it's something that you can afford to do. And then here with the insulation, we did spray foam on this wall. This actually separates our garage from our master bedroom. It's a 2x6 wall. So the reason you see this is kind of shaved off is because they come back and they cut the excess of the spray foam off after it's filled the cavity, which is opposed to the spray foam you see in this opening here. This is open cell and it is in the 11-inch wall cavity for the exterior wall. So there's no reason for them to come back and cut any of this off because the spray can just fill that cavity all the way out here. And in most of the cases, you have about the thickness of the 2x4 left over. If I do need to add any electrical lines, I have that to my advantage. I could run something here after the fact before sheetrock and still be safe to do so because I have this gap in the insulation. Now, one thing we did not do is insulate the ceiling up above in the living room because up above us in the attic, I insulated the roof deck. So because I did the roof deck, there's no reason to insulate it here. Now, if I wanted to do sound bats or something, because I wanted to keep down on sound if we were up there walking around, that'd be one thing, but there's no reason to spray foam into this or put bats because I've done R21 on the roof deck itself. And then additionally, before they do the foam in the walls, they come around and they seal all the windows with a smaller can. They come around and they seal everything here. So this would be something where maybe you're not going to have your insulation vendor pick that up. It's something that you could do yourself, but just make sure that it gets done before you do your sheetrock. All this needs to be sealed and caulked however you'd prefer it to be for you. And this is another important note, wherever you have penetrations going through the exterior wall, before these guys come and spray the foam, make sure you have all these sealed up. So we went around and sealed everything with either caulking or tape or put a gasket so that way when they sprayed the foam, it wasn't just blowing out through the hole and getting all over the side of the exterior of the building. All right, as promised, I will take you into the attic. As always, it's super dark, but I have a light this time, so maybe you'll be able to see what's actually going on. All right, so this is our attic space. I had the electrician wire up for lights already up here, so you'll see those throughout as you walk. We don't have any bulbs because there's no power yet, And we had the HVAC vendor keep all the ducts out of the way as best as possible. That way we have plenty of room up here for storage and to use the space. Here is our HVAC system. It is mounted up, it's suspended from the ceiling, and they even seal the holes where any of the electrical comes in. Now they have this opened up still because the damper system and controller still need to be installed. This is the one that we used if anybody is interested in matching up. This one will control 4 zones. And here's one of those little controllers on the duct. This is the thing that talks to this computer so that everything can open and close those dampers to control the individual zones. Our HVAC vendor also gave us 5 filters, so make sure you're asking for stuff like this. It's just one less thing you have to worry about right off the bat. So overall, I'm really happy with how the attic turned out. I don't really have to duct too much, just under a couple of the ducts. Anyways, the attic is usable, which is something that we wanted at the old house that we didn't have. And now we're gonna have areas to store things that we need to store. Hopefully not too much. We can get rid of some stuff we don't need, but it will be nice to store things up here and maybe even have like a little playroom above the kids' room, like a little space they can come up and we can create like a little walled-in reading room or something for them. Maybe something cool, I don't know. Either way, by doing it this way, we have options open, and that was my main goal in doing everything this way. So yeah, the next step is sheetrock, and I'm excited for this. I am ready for sheetrock because that's the stage where everything starts to feel real. It starts to feel like it's really coming together. So I hope you'll stay tuned to see us get this done. I'm excited to show that off and looking forward to it. So if you have any questions about the build, let me know down in the comments or reach out to us on social media at ToughGuysTV everywhere. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.